An indie movie starring Daniel Radcliffe as a dead person? Sounds interesting.
Oh my god.
So this is the life I've forgotten.
This is just the beginning.
So Swiss Army Man is directed by two guys both named Daniel, who direct a lot of movies together and go by the stage name of Daniels. And Swiss Army Man stars Paul Dano as Hank and Daniel Radcliffe as Manny. Swiss Army Man tells the tale of this character Hank, who is stranded on an island, and we're never really explained how he's stranded on this island, and he finds a corpse known as Manny, played by Daniel Radcliffe, and it's about their relationship and how Manny is kind of a corpse, but he's not really, and he has all these special abilities, much like a Swiss Army knife. Now, just my quick thoughts on Swiss Army Man as a whole. I actually really liked most of what it set out to do, but I think some of the questions that could have and probably should have been answered were left unanswered. But overall, I felt like it was a pretty fun experience at the movie theater. Now, that's what you have to realize going into Swiss Army Man, is that it is a very weird picture, and it's very bizarre and very out there, which is part of the reason it's an indie movie and not a full-budget, blockbuster. But that's part of the reason this movie has heart, and that's one thing that this movie definitely has, is heart. The relationship between these two characters is so deep and so intimate and really, really strikes a nerve with you and really makes you feel this relationship. At the same time, the symbolism behind Manny's character and how he's a dead person, but he's not really dead, he's kind of alive, is a little bit too abstract, and I think, at least for me, didn't always work. As far as the performances go, I felt like both performances were really, really well done. I felt like the fact that Daniel Radcliffe was able to reserve so much of his physical acting and just give this kind of deadpan but very innocent feeling performance was really, really, really good. And I felt like Paul Dano as this kind of frustrated, almost suicidal character being kind of pulled out of this rut by Manny was really believable, and it really worked. And I felt like their relationship was just the perfect dichotomy of two people. And I was talking about the symbolism and how it's a little bit too abstract, which I think it is, but at the same time, some of the symbolism really does work. And you have to realize that this movie is very heavily based around the symbolism that it holds and not about just taking everything literally. Because Daniel Radcliffe's character is this dead Swiss Army man, and basically he kind of gains abilities whenever Hank's character needs them, much like a Swiss Army knife. He's there just to help Hank survive. And it's really interesting just kind of to see the way their characters interact, but at the same time, you don't really understand what's going on with Manny. Why is he dead? The answers to these questions are kind of lacking, and if they're ever attempted to be answered, the answers are just kind of weak, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, sticking to this trend of answers, Hank's character is kind of looking for answers in the movie, and he never really gets any of those answers. The plot doesn't really wrap up at the end, which at the same time, that's kind of the point of the movie, is that it's left pretty open-ended. But I felt like the ending just kind of fizzled out a little bit. I felt like it really built this strong relationship between these two characters, and then the ending was just a little bit convoluted and confusing. Maybe on a second viewing I would understand it a little bit better, or maybe one of you guys could explain it to me. But I felt like the ending of this movie just fell flat a little bit. Now, all that being said, the cinematography in this movie is really brilliant, and I think it's really beautiful, and it keeps the tone going really well. Whenever something is meant to feel loving and warm and special, you get these nice dark reds and oranges and yellows. And when something's meant to feel cold and very, very isolated, you get these blues and these blacks, and the color palette is really, really beautiful in this movie, and it really matches the tone they're going for. And that's something I really liked about these guys, Daniels, who directed the movie. I felt like they really knew what they wanted to achieve. I felt like every frame was very, very meticulously planned out. But I think the story is a little bit lacking, especially towards the end, and a lot of the questions that we're asking throughout the course of the movie just aren't really answered, and if they're answered, the answers aren't particularly satisfying to the viewer. Now, going into Swiss Army Man, you have to realize that it's kind of gross, and there's a lot of bodily functions in this movie that you wouldn't really like to see usually. But the movie really does well with kind of having this social commentary on why people are the way they are. Manny's asking all these questions about why people do this, why people are so insecure about themselves. And it really, I felt like, as far as symbolism and social commentary goes, that was easily the strongest aspect of this movie. And the way that Manny is questioning the way people behave and just human nature and the human condition in general is really put under the spotlight in this movie. And I think it really, really works, and it really strengthens the overall message that the movie delivers. In the end, Swiss Army Man is a really interesting, fascinating time at the movie theater. You're really not going to want to bring your average moviegoer to see this movie, but I think overall achieved what it was trying to do, and that was just create a very thought-provoking, very, very different story. And that's why overall, I'm going to give Swiss Army Man a 3 out of 4. Thanks, guys. That's the review for Swiss Army Man. I hope you liked it. I hope you drop me a subscribe, drop me a like, whatever it is you do here on YouTube, and I'll see you next week.